Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Let's go ahead and talk about what my reading plans for the month of September are. And this is a very aspirational TBR this month. I have a lot of vacation planned for September, and what that normally means for me is I'm either going to read a lot or I'm barely going to read at all. So this TBR might end up just being a complete failure, but I have it loaded up with a lot of different things. So let's go ahead and get into what those are. So let's go ahead and start what I am carrying over from the month of August. That will include Oathbringer, which I am very close to being done. I'm about page 900 or getting, closing in on that 1,000-page mark in there in Oathbringer. Today is August 30th. I think I will probably end up finishing this like right on the 1st of September, maybe the 2nd. So I will technically be reading some of this in September, but I expect for most of it to be done, in August. And then the other book that I am working on is The Prophet of Adan by Philip Chase. You can see I've made a little bit more of a dent than when I talked about this in my August wrap-up. I'm on page, 68. So making my way through that. I would expect to be done with this probably at the latest, maybe the 8th of September, somewhere in there, just depending on how much I can actually sit down and read this. So far, this book has been really good. Talk about action. This book has been nothing but actions, explosions, fightings, just everything from the start. So that has been a really fun read to get through. So I am really enjoying that. And now let's go ahead and move on to some of the new things that will be happening in the month of September. I will be continuing along with my Cosmere, plan to read all of Sanderson's Cosmere this year. It's going to be a little bit of a stretch. When I first started this plan, I thought I would be able to do it pretty easy, but as we're closing into the end of the year, it's going to be close. I might have to really try to double up on a couple of books here, which this might be the month to do it because I have Dawn Shard, which will be the next one. I think this is technically a novella, but I think it's a pretty long novella. I think this is close to like full-length novel sized. Obviously, it's not the same size as a Stormlight book, but this does take place in that universe, and this is book 3.5. And then after I finish that, I will be starting Rhythm of War, which is exciting. I've heard a lot of different things about Rhythm of War, so we will see if if I like that or not as much as some people. I've heard it really explains the magic system in the world, which is actually something I'm kind of looking forward to. I kind of want to know a little bit more of what's going on in that world. And I actually completely forgot somehow that I have the hardcover version of it here. So yeah, I will be definitely getting into this in the month of September. And it's been a little while since I've read some sci-fi, so I want to make sure that I throw some of that in here in September. And I am planning to go to one of the classics, and that is Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. I have read some of other Clarke books in the past, notably 2001: A Space Odyssey. Interesting read. That and the movie are just very interesting. A lot, especially at the end. Some real interesting stuff goes on there, but that is definitely a plan that I have. It's short, so I might actually end up reading this before I get to Rhythm of War. It will just kind of depend on what I'm feeling. Next up will be Godkiller by Hannah Kanner. This is a book that I have been planning to read for a really long time. It is a pretty short, I think it's like 300-page or so long fantasy book. It is absolutely my favorite cover of the year. I don't know why. I think that this cover just is absolutely spectacular. So yeah, I don't know too much about it. I know that this is a world where the gods interact with the mortals of the world, and there is definitely some animosity, I think would be the best way to describe it. I think they tried to kill the gods, hence Godkiller. So this has been a book that I've really been looking forward to for a long time. This was a cover buy, but it was also just sounded like a really interesting book. So I will definitely be getting to this in the month of September. And it wouldn't be a TBR without mentioning Jenny Wirtz. But fortunately, this time it is a new book, and it is The War Host of Vastmark. I will definitely start this in September, I think, but as I mentioned in my Ships of Merior review, and anytime I've talked about it, is this series is definitely a mood read for me. It really just comes down to the prose. I just need to kind of be in the mood to read it, and I think that I have really started to fall in love with the series, and I'm really looking forward to getting to this. It's also quite a bit smaller than some of the two previous books. I think this one is maybe 500 pages, and the previous two were about 200 pages more, around that 700 plus page mark. So I am definitely looking forward to getting to this, but it is a mood read, and because of that, I have a bunch of maybes in my TBR for this month. One of those maybes is actually a book that doesn't come out until later in September, and that is Starter Villain by John SCALZI. That's what I'm going to go with. I don't think it's right, but close enough. I don't know. The cover of this book made me laugh. It has a cat on the cover, and I think it is about a nephew or something taking over the evil corporation that his uncle ran, or something like that. And I don't know, just kind of sounded kind of fun, a little different, and you know, just might be a nice light book with some of these really long series I am working on. Sticking with science fiction, I am also considering reading Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I've only read one other Blake Crouch book, and that was Run. I really enjoyed that, and I have heard Dark Matter is just super, super awesome. And this is a book I've been wanting to get to for a long time, so if I'm in the mood for it, or you know, I just have an opening, that will fit into there. I am also considering Dark Theory by WICK, WELKER. I've heard a lot of good things about this science fiction book as well. Once again, it's just kind of one, I don't really know too much about it. I think it has like an Android companion or something like that in it. And yeah, it's just a book that I've heard a few other booktubers talk about, and I have put it on my list. So if I can get to it, or have an opening for it, or I'm really feeling it, I will you know, read that one. And then lastly, this is a trilogy, a fantasy trilogy that I have been wanting to get to for a really long time, and that is Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. I believe it is the Winnowing Flame trilogy, and this is a series that I have wanted to read for a really long time. And part of the reason I haven't gotten to it until now is there wasn't an audiobook for a really long time, and that's just my preferred way of reading. And well, there is an audiobook for these now, so it has kind of jumped up my list. The fact that it's also a trilogy is nice because it's not too long, but it's still a nice length in a story. So this is a kind of out there fantasy. From what I've heard, I think Elliot Brooks is like the big champion of the series, and the way she sells it is great, and it's very different. So that will be another one that maybe will get on this list. And if not this month, probably next month for sure. I really do want to get to the series. It's one I've been holding on to for quite a while. And my few other planned reads are just based around a manga. I will continue reading my same assortment that I am, but with one new addition, which is, I think it's called To Your Eternity. And that is just so I can follow along with Philip Chase and Murphy Napier. I really enjoy watching those videos and their discussions they have. I think they've done, what was it? We've done Vinland Saga, Monster, and Vagabond. How can I forget Vagabond? So those three, and so this will be the fourth one that they've done in this kind of series they're doing together, and I think it's a lot of fun, so maybe you should look into that as well. The other manga that I will continue reading are Vinland Saga, Berserk, Black Clover, My Hero, Boruto, One Piece, and Dragon Ball Z, which I am slowly working my way through, just having a nice nostalgia trip with that series. But let me know what your TBR plans are for the month of September. I think I have planned way too much, and we'll see. Hopefully vacation gives me the time to read, but I'm normally super active on vacation, and that does not lend time to read. So we'll see. It's a 50-50 chance. But that's all for me, and as always, have a good one.